Welcome back to Chat Like a Native.
Hey, everyone.
Today, we are going to completely transform the way you step into your English conversations. The biggest takeaway here is a massive benefit for you, honestly. You are going to stop freezing up during those crucial first moments of speaking, and you are going to instantly unlock your fluency without needing to study hours and hours of extra grammar.
It's a huge relief, really, because that dreaded conversational delay, you know, the one where your mind just goes totally blank when someone simply says hello?
Oh, yeah, the worst.
Right, that is not a vocabulary issue at all. It is a startup problem. Your brain is simply stuck in your first language.
And the solution is this simple, highly effective 60-second mental warm-up routine. It pulls your familiar words right to the surface before you even say your first greeting. To help you remember exactly how to do this, there is a punchy mnemonic, NNAL pronounced nail, because you are going to absolutely nail your next interaction. It stands for name, narrate, answer, launch. 4 simple steps, 60 seconds total. Okay, let's unpack this. I want to speak directly to you, the listener, for a second. Have you ever had that incredibly frustrating experience where you know your English is good? You read it well, you understand complex concepts, you write great emails, but suddenly a video call begins or a colleague walks up to your desk and you feel incredibly slow.
Yeah, the words are in there somewhere, but they just refuse to arrive on time.
Exactly.
That is such a common frustration, and validating that feeling is where we need to begin today. What is crucial to understand is that this initial 10 to 20-second delay completely dictates the emotional tone and the mental rhythm of the entire interaction.
Setting the stage.
Yes, it is not just a minor hiccup. If you feel slow in those first 20 seconds, the entire next 20 minutes will feel like an exhausting uphill battle.
It's so true. I know so many learners who they beat themselves up thinking they need to memorize more words or get better at advanced grammar.
Right.
But there is a massive difference between a grammar problem and an activation problem.
Yeah?
You clearly have the knowledge, you just can't activate it on demand.
What's fascinating here is the analogy of a dark room. Think about your English vocabulary as a room filled with furniture. The furniture represents all the words and grammar rules you have spent years acquiring.
Okay, the furniture's already in the room.
Exactly. When you freeze up at the start of a conversation, it is not because the room is suddenly empty.
Right.
The furniture is still there.
Right, so you don't need to go out and buy new furniture.
No.
You don't need another flashcard app.
You don't. The problem is simply that the lights are turned off, you cannot see what you have, and you end up bumping into things in the dark. This 60-second warm-up routine, that is your light switch.
I love that. But wait, why is that first minute so make or break? Whether you are prepping for a high-stakes board meeting or just getting ready for a casual chat with a neighbor, why does the whole interaction feel falsely difficult if you stumble early on?
Because it creates a cognitive domino effect. Let's look at what happens when the first few seconds go well. You take a breath, you relax, your breathing physically eases, which signals safety to your nervous system.
Which is huge.
Right. Your thoughts clear up, your next sentence comes faster, and you build trust in yourself. But if those first seconds go badly, panic sets in immediately.
Your brain just goes into a full-on stress response.
A complete fight-or-flight reaction.
You instantly start trying to translate from your native language. You become hyper-aware of your mistakes. And suddenly answering even a simple question like, how was your weekend, feels completely impossible.
Exactly. I've seen it happen countless times. Someone asks, how was your commute? And the person just freezes, staring blankly, trying to construct the perfect past tense sentence while their heart rate just spikes.
Because you are fighting your own panic, not the English language.
Right.
So let's get into the actual solution and spend some real time on it. Let's break down this NNAL routine, the 60-second switch.
Let's do it.
We're going to look at this in 4 15-second blocks. Step 1 is the N. Name your world. This takes up seconds 1 through 15. The idea is to look around your physical environment and simply name the objects you see in English.
Keep it simple.
Right. Laptop, window, door, coffee mug. But let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
If I am prepping for a massive presentation on quarterly financials, aren't I just practicing beginner vocabulary by saying door and window? How does that actually help me?
It sounds overly simplistic, I know. But the goal here isn't to practice complex rhetoric or review your presentation slides.
Okay.
The goal is neurological bridging. When you just name what you see, you are creating a direct, immediate connection between a visual input and an English word. You are bypassing the translation route entirely.
Oh, I see. Because normally I look at the coffee mug,
Oh.
I think the word for it in my native language, and then I search my brain for the English translation.
Precisely. And that split-second search is what causes the delay. By just naming objects in English out loud or even in your head, you are training your brain to see the object and instantly think it in English.
You're just flipping the switch.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't even need to worry about full sentences in those first 15 seconds. You are just waking up the absolute foundation of your vocabulary.
That makes total sense. It's like stretching before a run.
Yeah.
You aren't sprinting yet. You're just getting the blood flowing to the right muscles.
Exactly.
And if you want to level this up slightly, just to get a bit more juice out of those 15 seconds, you can add a simple adjective. So instead of just notebook, you think blue notebook.
Nice.
Instead of water, it's cold water. Instead of desk, it's messy desk.
That addition of the adjective is incredibly powerful. It forces your brain to group words together, which is the very beginning of syntax.
Because you're combining concepts now.
Yes. You're no longer just identifying, you're modifying. It is the absolute fastest way to wake up those dormant pathways without overwhelming your brain.
Which perfectly sets up step 2, the second N in our mnemonic. Narrate what is happening.
Right, seconds 16 through 30.
Exactly. You are moving from static objects to actual action. So you might say to yourself, I'm sitting at my desk. I'm opening the document on my screen. I am taking a sip of coffee. You're adding motion. But why the shift? Why not just keep naming things with more complex adjectives?
Because real speech, actual conversation, is never just a list of nouns and adjectives. Real speech requires verbs. It requires movement and flow and an understanding of time.
It needs action.
Right. When you transition from naming to narrating, you start building what we can call living sentences. You are no longer dealing with isolated words floating in a void. You are putting them to work. You are getting the engine of the language running.
Living sentences. I really like that phrase. It takes the pressure off because you aren't trying to invent a brilliant original thought. You are just describing the undeniable reality in front of you. I am clicking the mouse. I am adjusting my chair.
It anchors you to the present moment.
It really does.
It keeps you present and highly engaged with your immediate surroundings, and it prepares your mind for the next leap, which is step 3, the A in NNAL.
Answer one easy question.
Yes. We are now at seconds 31 through 45. You ask yourself a small, simple, personal question, something like, what am I doing today? And then you answer it. I am speaking with the marketing team this afternoon.
So we've gone from naming a physical object to describing a physical action to now dealing with a concept. We're talking about the future, a plan.
This specific step acts as a crucial bridge. In the first 30 seconds, you are making observations about the physical world. Now, by asking and answering a question, you are moving into the realm of expressing actual meaning. The language is becoming personal to you. You are shifting from description to communication. This is exactly what you have to do in a real conversation when someone asks for your input.
You are warming up your inner voice. I imagine this is also great for checking your emotional state before a stressful call.
Oh, absolutely.
You could even ask, how do I feel right now? And answer, I feel a little nervous, but I am ready. You are validating your emotional state while using English to do it. It almost feels like a grounding exercise.
It definitely is. You're proving to your brain that you can formulate a thought, internalize a feeling, and express it without triggering a panic response. Which brings us to the final step.
Step 4, the L. Use your launch lines.
Right. This is seconds 46 through 60. These are your go-to sentence starters.
The launch lines. Things like, hi, good to speak with you, or let me explain that clearly, or even, from my side, things are going well. I know these lines are absolute gold, but let's dig into why. Why do they work so well in this final 15-second block before a call?
Because they eliminate the psychological friction of the absolute hardest part of speaking, the very first step. Let's borrow a concept from physics.
I love a good physics analogy.
Static friction, the force needed to start moving an object at rest, is always greater than kinetic friction, which is the force needed to keep an object moving once it's already in motion.
Ah, so pushing a heavy box across the floor is really hard at first, but once it's sliding, it's much easier to keep it sliding.
Exactly. Or like trying to push a stalled car. Getting the tires to roll that first inch takes all your strength, but then momentum takes over.
The same is true for speaking a second language.
The heaviest lift is that opening sentence. Mhm. If you have to invent your opening sentence from scratch while someone is staring at you on a screen waiting for you to speak, the static friction is massive.
It's terrifying.
It is. But if you have these launch lines fully loaded and ready to fire at the front of your mind, you take that first step effortlessly.
The car is already rolling.
Yes. And once that first step is taken, the psychological friction disappears, making your second and third sentences infinitely easier to produce. You've bypassed the freeze entirely.
You are literally building momentum before the starting gun even fires. It is such a smart way to approach it. Now, I know what some of you listening are thinking. You might feel a little silly sitting at your desk talking to yourself about your blue notebook and how you are opening a document.
Sure.
A lot of learners assume that if you are not talking to another human being, it's not real practice.
It is a very common misconception, but we need to redefine self-talk. Think about it through a basketball analogy. Self-talk is exactly like a basketball player shooting free throws in an empty gym before the big game.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Is it the exact same scenario as the final quarter with defenders jumping in your face and the crowd screaming? No. But it removes the external pressure while maintaining the physical and mental production of the form.
You still have to do the motion. You still have to follow through with your wrist.
Exactly. When you talk to yourself in English, you still have to form ideas, choose words, and build sentences. But you remove the pressure of the other person.
Right.
There is no one waiting for you to finish, no one silently judging your accent, no one interrupting you or suddenly changing the topic. You get to practice the pure mechanics of the language without the thick layer of social anxiety on top of it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Self-talk actually acts as an incredible diagnostic tool.
It really does.
Because there is no one else there to distract you, you start to notice your own patterns. You might realize, hey, I can name all the objects on my desk perfectly, but I really struggle to find my verbs.
Yeah.
Or, I'm great in the present tense, but when I try to narrate what I did yesterday, my brain slows down. Or maybe your ideas are clear, but your opening launch lines feel stiff and unnatural.
That self-awareness is invaluable. It acts as a targeted map. Instead of just feeling generally bad at English, which is discouraging and vague, you can say, I need to work specifically on my past tense verbs.
It gives you a clear target.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this kind of targeted, low-pressure practice is the ultimate weapon against the translation habit.
Oh, the translation habit. Every learner gets told, just stop translating in your head. And it makes people feel so hopeless, right?
Completely.
Because you can't just flip a switch and command your brain to completely ignore your native language. I remember trying to learn Spanish, and I'd sit there silently translating an entire paragraph in my head before I opened my mouth. By the time I was ready to speak, the conversation had moved on to a completely different topic.
We've all been there. And telling someone to just stop translating overnight is terrible advice because it is practically impossible. The practical truth is that translation doesn't just vanish in an instant, it simply becomes less dominant over time.
And how do you make it less dominant?
By building those direct links we talked about in the warm-up routine.
See the object, think the word.
Notice the action, think the verb. Feel the idea, say the short sentence. It is a natural staircase. You do not begin with the pressure of perfection, you begin with directness. The more you practice that directness in your 60-second routine, the less space your brain has to rely on translation.
But let's be totally real for a second. Even with the best warm-up, even with all the direct links in the world, there will be a moment where your mind just goes completely blank.
Of course.
You lose your train of thought, or someone asks a question out of left field. It happens to everyone.
And that is perfectly normal. The goal of all this isn't to magically eliminate every single difficult moment. The goal is to recover from them faster.
Yes. And that is where the concept of rescue lines comes in. We talked about launch lines to start a conversation, but you also need rescue lines for the middle of it.
Highly recommended.
Phrases like, let me think for a second. Or what I mean is, or how can I say this?
Learners often feel that if they use a phrase like that, they are exposing a weakness. They feel like they are admitting defeat or showing the native speaker that they are struggling.
Right. But in reality, even native fluent speakers pause. They rephrase. They lose their train of thought. Real speech is never as perfectly smooth as we imagine it is.
Never.
Silence. The awkward, panicked silence is so much worse than imperfect English. A good rescue line buys you time. It significantly reduces your internal panic, and it signals to the other person that you are still engaged and the interaction is still moving forward.
It's all about embracing a good enough mindset. Communication is the ultimate goal, not grammatical perfection. I think about this all the time with the charger example.
Oh, the charger example is brilliant.
Imagine you are in an important meeting, your laptop is dying, and you completely blank on the word charger. You have a choice. You can freeze up, panic, and let the silence drag on while you frantically search your mental dictionary for that exact word.
Which derails the whole meeting.
Exactly. Or you can just accept good enough English and say, the thing I use to give power to my phone. Is it the perfect, most concise word? No. Does it successfully communicate your needs so the meeting can continue and you can plug in your laptop? Absolutely yes.
And that's what counts.
And that is what actually matters in the real world. When you stop waiting for the perfect sentence to form in your head, you remove an immense amount of pressure. And when you remove that pressure, your speaking speed and fluidity naturally improve.
So to make this really practical, we highly suggest building your own personal English ignition list. This is a customized list of words and phrases tied to your actual daily life. You don't need a massive, generalized dictionary. You just need your ignition list.
A great formula for this is 5 nouns you use every single day, maybe project, report, schedule, or inventory.
5 common verbs you frequently need, like explain, update, solve, or review.
5 sentence starters, 3 rescue phrases like we just discussed, and 3 follow-up questions to keep the conversation going, like, what do you think? Or, can you clarify that?
Because these phrases are deeply connected to your specific real life and your specific job, they are so much easier to activate. They aren't abstract concepts from a textbook, they are the actual tools of your trade. So what does this all mean?
Let's bring it all together.
How do we actually put this into practice, starting today? We have a highly practical 7-day practice plan to lock this in, and let's really walk through what this looks like so you don't get stuck along the way.
It is incredibly straightforward, but consistency is key. Day 1, all you do is spend 1 minute naming objects around you in English. Just step 1. And if you stumble, don't panic. Just move on to the next object.
Easy enough. Day 2, you name the objects, and then you add simple actions. Step 1 and 2. You might feel a little awkward narrating your life out loud, but push through it.
Day 3, you narrate your morning routine as you do it. I am making coffee. I am checking emails. I am putting on my coat. This is where you might realize you lack specific vocabulary for things you do every day. That's a great time to look up those specific words and add them to your ignition list.
Day 4, you answer 3 simple self-talk questions out loud. Try asking yourself about your priorities for the day or how a recent meeting went.
Day 5, you practice your 5 launch lines right before you have to speak to someone. Say them in your head as the video call is connecting or as you are walking over to your colleague's desk.
Day 6, you intentionally use a rescue phrase. Now wait, for day 6, I'm supposed to intentionally fake a pause during a conversation.
Yes. It feels incredibly unnatural at first, but you are training your nervous system. Just let yourself pause and use the rescue phrase on purpose to feel how it buys you time. Don't wait until you are fully panicked to try it for the first time. Use it when you are calm so your brain learns it's a safe, reliable tool.
That makes total sense. Train with the safety net before you actually fall. And finally, day 7, you put it all together. You do the full 60-second NNAL routine, name, narrate, answer, launch. And then you just speak to yourself for 2 minutes about your day.
This short, structured week of practice fundamentally changes how you enter conversations. You are no longer waiting passively for the conversation to magically switch you into English. You are taking control and switching yourself into English first.
It is a total identity shift. It breaks that toxic cycle we all get trapped in. You know the cycle. You feel unready, so you wait. Because you wait, you speak less. Because you speak less, you improve much more slowly. And because you improve slowly, you feel even more unready the next time an opportunity comes up.
That cycle is brutal. But this routine shatters it entirely. It teaches your brain a vital lesson. English is not just an academic subject that you study in a vacuum. It is a mode of being that you enter. You do not need a perfect encyclopedic mind to speak well. What you need is a prepared mind.
A prepared mind. I love that. You don't need 20 minutes of panic. You just need 1 minute of direction.
Yeah.
Name your world, narrate your actions, answer a question, use your launch lines, and NNAL. Nail it.
This raises an important question. If just 60 seconds of intentional, focused warm-up can completely rewire your performance and your confidence in a second language, what other startup problems in your life are you currently mislabeling as a lack of talent or ability?
Wow, that is something to really chew on. Think about that the next time you feel stuck. Thank you so much for joining us for today's discussion. Get out there, try the 60-second switch, and we will catch you next time. Keep talking and keep learning.